Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down the most urgent global news story of the moment, the ongoing conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran, and what we expect to happen next. This is a developing situation that's already changed global politics, military strategy, oil markets, and global security. So if you want the latest, stay tuned. To understand the current crisis, we must first look back at how it began. Let's start with a recap of the events that led us here. The situation escalated dramatically on February 28, 2026, when the United States and Israel launched a major coordinated military operation against Iran, codenamed Operation Epic Fury. According to statements from Washington and Tel Aviv, the operation was a preemptive measure based on what they described as credible and imminent threats linked to Iran's nuclear program and its regional proxy network. The initial wave of attacks involved a combination of stealth aircraft, long-range cruise missiles, and sophisticated cyber warfare. These precision strikes targeted dozens of high-value military sites across Iran, including nuclear enrichment facilities at Natanz and Fordo, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps bases, and critical command and control centers. The stated goal was to degrade Iran's ability to project military power and to neutralize its leadership infrastructure. The impact of those initial strikes was immediate and profound. In a move that sent shockwaves across the globe, official sources confirmed that several senior Iranian leaders were killed. Most significantly, reports quickly emerged that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was among the casualties. As the ultimate political and religious authority in the country for over 3 decades, his death created an unprecedented power vacuum at the heart of the Iranian regime. The decapitation strike was a high-risk, high-reward strategy, and its success left Iran's complex political and military structure in a state of disarray, grappling with a sudden and violent succession crisis. Iran's response was swift and furious. Within hours, the IRGC retaliated, launching hundreds of ballistic missiles and attack drones at U.S. military bases in Iraq, the UAE, and Qatar, as well as at strategic targets inside Israeli territory. This triggered a massive defensive effort, with air defense systems like Israel's Iron Dome and David's Sling, alongside U.S. Patriot and THAAD batteries, working overtime to intercept the incoming barrage. While defenses intercepted a majority of the projectiles, some inevitably broke through, causing damage and casualties, the full extent of which is still being assessed. This initial exchange of fire marked the beginning of a dangerous new phase. The cartographic animation on your screen illustrates the sheer scale of Iran's retaliatory capability, with arrows representing missile and drone trajectories radiating outward across the region. The expanding threat rings demonstrate the reach of Iran's arsenal, putting major population centers, critical shipping lanes, and allied military installations at risk. This map highlights not just a conflict between 3 nations, but a regional conflagration with the potential for catastrophic global consequences. From this point forward, the conflict has only continued to widen, drawing in more actors and escalating tensions day by day. Tragically, this conflict has already resulted in multiple casualties. The U.S. military confirmed its first service member deaths in this conflict, and at least 4 U.S. troops have now died as a result of retaliatory attacks. In addition, missiles have hit civilian areas across the region, including schools and populated cities in both Iran and Israel, triggering outrage and growing civilian suffering. In neighborhoods like these, families shelter in silence as emergency crews search through debris. Hospitals report rising admissions, schools are shut, and power is intermittent. The toll is personal, immediate, and heartbreakingly visible for ordinary people. It's important to understand that diplomatic negotiations were active before this war broke out. For months, U.S. and Iranian officials met in places like Oman, Rome, and Geneva to discuss Iran's nuclear program. However, many of these talks collapsed just before the military strikes began. In fact, Iranian leaders accused the U.S. of negotiating in bad faith, calling the bombing offensive a betrayal of trust. This breakdown in diplomacy is a key reason why the conflict escalated so rapidly. This conflict hasn't just stayed between Iran and the U.S.-Israel. Iran-backed militias have launched strikes into Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. Hezbollah has fired rockets toward Israel. Additionally, missiles and drones have struck U.S. positions in Gulf states, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE, dramatically widening the geographic scope. Across the aviation network, dispatchers and crews recalculate routes minute by minute. New NOTAMs shut corridors near conflict zones, insurers raise risk tiers, and carriers stage diversions. Cargo flights reshuffle schedules while Gulf hubs coordinate airspace, keeping humanitarian and essential traffic moving with heightened separation and caution. This escalation map shows how quickly spillover can occur. Proxy forces, missile ranges, and maritime choke points overlap, turning local strikes into regional hazards. Neighboring capitals raise alert levels as shipping routes and energy nodes fall within expanding threat rings, complicating any effort at rapid de-escalation. One of the biggest global economic concerns right now is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point through which about 20% of the world's oil supply flows. After these attacks, shipping traffic through the strait has plunged by roughly 70% as companies avoid the area. This has caused oil prices to spike sharply, with some analysts warning that prices could push toward $100 per barrel if the crisis continues. Any extended disruption here could ripple through global energy markets, raising fuel prices worldwide. As the immediate shock of the initial strikes begins to settle, the critical question on the world stage is, what comes next? The path forward is not a single road, but a complex web of possibilities, each fraught with its own set of risks and potential consequences. Military strategists, diplomats, and regional experts are all weighing a future that remains dangerously unwritten. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks will not only determine the fate of this conflict, but could reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East for a generation. We'll examine 4 key areas that will define the next phase: the military endgame, the conflict's timeline, the prospects for diplomacy, and the internal stability of Iran itself. First, the continuation of fighting. Top U.S. officials have been clear. This conflict, while not intended to be endless, has a defined set of military objectives that must be met before any significant de-escalation can occur. The primary goal, as stated by the Pentagon, is the neutralization of Iran's offensive capabilities. This is a multifaceted objective. It involves not just striking known missile launch sites, but also targeting the entire supply chain that supports them: command and control centers, manufacturing facilities, and critical military infrastructure. Analysts note that this is a formidable task. Iran's missile program is extensive, dispersed, and in some cases, hardened in underground bunkers. Achieving this objective would likely require a sustained air campaign, utilizing advanced intelligence and precision-guided munitions to systematically dismantle the threat. The stated aim is to degrade, not completely destroy, Iran's military to a point where it can no longer project power and threaten regional stability or U.S. interests. This leads to the second point: the timeline. How long will this military engagement last? Publicly, there have been varied signals. Former U.S. President Trump indicated a belief that the conflict could be resolved in about 4 weeks. However, many military and foreign policy analysts view this as an optimistic, best-case scenario. They caution that such timelines are notoriously difficult to predict. The effectiveness of the initial strikes, the resilience of Iranian defenses, and the potential for unforeseen escalations are all variables that make any firm prediction uncertain. Historical precedent for similar air campaigns suggests that even limited objectives can take months, not weeks, to achieve. The longer the conflict drags on, the higher the risk of mission creep, where initial goals expand, further prolonging the engagement and its associated costs, both human and financial. Third, the dim prospects for a diplomatic off-ramp. In the current climate, direct talks between Washington and Tehran seem all but impossible. With active military operations underway, the political space for negotiation has evaporated. Any diplomatic resolution in the immediate term is therefore exceptionally difficult. Back-channel communications, often facilitated by neutral third-party countries like Oman or Switzerland, may still be occurring, but their purpose is likely limited to deconfliction and conveying red lines rather than negotiating a ceasefire. For meaningful diplomacy to resume, experts suggest a significant de-escalation on the ground would be a prerequisite. Until then, the language of force has replaced the language of negotiation, and the international community can do little more than call for restraint. Finally, and perhaps most unpredictably, is the question of regime stability in Iran. The death of Supreme Leader Khamenei has plunged the country into a profound political crisis at the worst possible moment. With his leadership gone, Iran faces an uncertain and potentially volatile future. A power vacuum could emerge, leading to internal struggles between hardline factions, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and more moderate political elements. This internal disarray presents a dual-edged sword for the conflict. On one hand, a fractured leadership might be too preoccupied with its own survival to effectively manage a war, potentially leading to a quicker collapse of their military effort. On the other hand, a new hardline leader seeking to consolidate power could adopt an even more aggressive stance, escalating the conflict to rally the nation and prove their strength. This internal dynamic is the great unknown, a wild card that could either hasten the end of hostilities or tragically prolong them. World leaders have reacted with a mix of concern and calls for de-escalation. Some nations are warning that continued conflict could drag the region into a broader war, while others are pushing for urgent diplomatic talks to prevent further civilian suffering. Government spokespeople urge restraint, though language varies by capital. Some warn against further strikes, others back limited operations while demanding protection of civilians and shipping lanes. Multilateral bodies convene, emergencies, draft statements, and weigh sanctions or inspections, seeking leverage to slow the tempo of retaliation. As statements accumulate, a pattern emerges: caution, condemnation, and guarded outreach. The diplomatic clock keeps ticking while events outpace communiques, leaving audiences watching for a pause substantial enough to open the door to real talks. As we draw our analysis to a close, it's crucial to synthesize the complex threads we've unraveled. The conflict involving the United States, Israel, and Iran is not a static event, but a dynamic and rapidly evolving crisis. Its shockwaves are already being felt far beyond the immediate theater of operations, creating significant and unpredictable implications for global security architectures that have been in place for decades. The delicate balance of power in the Middle East, a region historically fraught with tension, is now under unprecedented strain. Each military action, no matter how carefully described by officials as targeted or limited, carries with it a cascade of consequences. The immediate human impact, as we've discussed, is profound, with civilian lives disrupted and lost. Simultaneously, the economic fallout is beginning to crystallize. We're seeing volatility in global energy markets as the specter of disruption to critical shipping lanes like the Strait of Hormuz looms large. This directly translates to rising energy prices for consumers and businesses worldwide, threatening to fuel inflation and slow down economic recovery. The situation remains a tinderbox, where a single miscalculation could ignite a much wider, more devastating regional war. The path forward is shrouded in uncertainty, with diplomatic channels strained and military posturing taking precedence. What happens in the coming days and weeks will not only determine the fate of the region, but will also test the resolve and unity of the international community. The key question remains: can de-escalation prevail, or are we witnessing the prelude to a larger confrontation? The stakes could not be higher for regional stability and the global order. This is a developing story, and the information landscape is constantly shifting. To stay fully informed with our daily coverage, in-depth analysis, and breaking news alerts on these future developments, we invite you to become part of our community. Please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and, crucially, turn on all notifications so you don't miss an update. Your perspective is invaluable in understanding the broader public sentiment on this critical issue. We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Based on what you've seen, do you believe this conflict is destined to escalate into a wider regional war, or do you see a viable path for diplomacy to de-escalate tensions and restore stability? Is a lasting peace still possible, or are the current divisions too deep to overcome? We read your comments and value the thoughtful discussion they generate. Thank you for joining us for this detailed report. Stay informed and stay safe. Thanks for watching. Tap subscribe and explore our next reports now.